In the spring of 2013, a pair of moorhens had taken up residence on the pond at High Chimneys. Some mallard ducks had arrived earlier, and two of the females began preening and looking broody, a sure sign that they were nesting. One of the mallards had built a nest in a clump of ivy on top of a brick pillar in the vegetable garden. The other mallard began nesting in a flower bed. It is almost impossible to tell which moorhen is which. Male and female look identical. Both work on building the nest, both sit on the eggs, and when hatched, both feed the young hens. However, when they are mating, the differences become obvious. The moorhen doesn't know it, but it's a waste of time building a nest. They become very aggressive when nesting, and even more so when their young hatch. Their feet have long claws, and to avoid them harming the baby ducks due to arrive on the pond, it seems prudent to remove the moorhen's eggs from the nest before their young are born. Sure enough, one morning the ivy duck is standing by the veg garden gate waiting to launch her brood onto the pond. After hatching, somehow or other, the young ducks had managed to escape the ivy pillar and were huddled together behind the garden gate. The ivy duck is wary about the inquisitive male who arrives, possibly hoping to inspect its offspring. But after a few quacks he realises he is not wanted and departs, allowing the new arrivals to prepare for the pond. As the ducklings gather round their mother, there is a problem. One is stuck in the gate. Unfortunately, she can't do anything to help and leads the remaining brood off to the water. Fortunately, Elizabeth sees that the baby duck is struggling and is able to disentangle it. She carries it off to the pond to join the siblings. The duck appears pleased with all her efforts and thankful that all her ducklings have made it to the pond. But the male mallard is keen to become part of the family. Or is it the food that attracts him? While exploring the pond, danger lurks in the reeds. The moorhens have built their nest and are about to lay eggs. The last thing they want is to be visited by a band of inquisitive youngsters. But the ivy duck is up to the fight and willing to assert her authority. One morning the water seems to be covered by baby ducks. They're everywhere. The flower-bed duck's eggs have hatched and she has brought 12 more ducklings to the pond. The babies begin to mingle, but the ivy duck will not tolerate the intrusion of the newcomers and tries to chase their mother away and keep her own youngsters separate. Some days later, however, the flower-bed duck flies off and fails to return, leaving her own young vulnerable. Mallard ducks are known to kill strangers, but amazingly, the ivy duck decides to accept the orphans as part of her own family. After a few weeks, the duckling shows signs of growing up, Some are more developed than others, who are slow to grow. However, as time passes, the small ones will catch up as they develop adult feathers, and instead of squeaking, they will learn to quack. But it will take several months for the young males to grow distinctive colourful feathers displayed by their father. He will molt in the summer and lose his plumage, but it will grow again before the next breeding season, ready to attract females. As the year progresses and the ducks put on weight, regular visitors arrive. A little owl finds an advantage point in a nut tree overlooking the pond. A pair of doves perch on the garden fence and think of mating, but their plans are put on hold when an intruder arrives. A grey heron creates some excitement when it lands on the bank looking for a meal. A jay pecks at the lawn, hoping to attract a worm or two, while a blackbird thinks better of interfering with the ducks. A seemingly frozen pigeon watches as a daring crow has a drink from the pond, but the crow leaves when a diligent duck arrives. It ignores the moorhen when it lands before joining another crow. The ducks watch in amusement as the moorhen then decides to take a lunge at one of the crows. When the heron discovers that there are no fish to be had, it departs. A great spotted woodpecker searches the bark of an old crabapple tree for food to feed its young. A pair of magpies become involved with a squabble between a molting drake and a duck who is nesting nearby. The baby ducklings soon become teenagers and learn to forage for food. Eating and sleeping occupies most of their day. Even the moorhens have learned to accept their presence. When, much to the surprise of everyone, a new mother arrives with a batch of ducklings, conflict is bound to follow. One of the youngsters bravely joins in the fun, but the fun becomes more serious when an attempt is made to drive the mother away. Fortunately, she survives the attack, as does her youngsters. Unlike humans, ducks can walk almost as soon as they break out of the egg. Also, unlike humans, they have wings and can fly. But that trick has to be learnt. First, it's a matter of flapping the wings, then lifting off the ground for a few inches. Then, after lots of flapping, short flights are possible. The day soon arrives when they can take flight, and like all teenagers, have the urge to flee the nest. Some will be back next spring to do it all over again. In the meantime, the moorhens breathe a sigh of relief. If it's not too late in the summer, they can build yet another nest and try for some young of their own.